Hey guys, I'm Dusty Harris.
And I'm Kayla Platt, and we are from Amazing Race Season 33, and this is Pitstop Podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back. It's Pitstop Podcast, Dusty and Kayla. We're a little late to the party, as everyone notices, but we felt like with two episodes combining for a mega leg and with the busy lives we're both leading, it just kind of made sense to recap both together. We may be a couple days later than we wanted to, but we're going to get it out before the next episode. So tune in and hang on. I think there's just so much to unpack over these two episodes. And so Kayla and I were talking prior to shooting this, and we kind of want to give a new perspective and go a different avenue with this episode because there is just so much that happens. There will be a little bit of recapping, but really our focus on this is going to be strategy and kind of the mind frame we would be in this position since we raced the season prior to this. And so we hope you like this. It's going to be a little bit of a change, but a little bit of the same as well. So Kayla, what's been good?
Yeah, I mean, what a roller coaster this one was. And I'm glad as much as I was like, we're really behind, but you really can't even get a full picture of the emotional journey that these teams are going on until you've watched both episodes. So it definitely just made more sense to do mega leg all in one. And it was some mega drama. I mean,
you're starting to see some seams tear. We were just talking before this too. It's we were in a very strange predicament. We started the Amazing Race, left for 19 months, and then came back. And so our start of the race was 2 legs, and then we got a long break. Mm-hmm. When we came back, we were talking by the episode 3 and 4, we start hitting those episodes. It's, mentally, that's when you're starting to become challenged. So I can't wait to dig into it, talk some strategy, dissect some breakdowns and some emotional roller coasters that were had. This one should be pretty fun. So Mega Leg, episodes 3 and 4, Italy. Names all in the details. Episode 2, it was Everyone is an Artist. And I believe that these two names speak highly to what these people do. So some facts about Mega Legs, guys. And I looked this up, so don't quote me if I'm wrong. But from what I've gathered, this is the second Mega Leg ever. There was one season 32 before us.
Yeah.
We performed no mega leg, and now season 34, another mega leg presents itself. And so for anyone that doesn't understand what that is, this is 2 roadblocks and 2 detours all in one day. I can't fathom how long this must have taken.
But not just that, it's also the navigating that you have to do in between all of these roadblocks and detours, which are the most mentally draining part about your entire race experience. So I'm not shocked about the emotions that were brought out in multiple teams. But I don't know. I love seeing the shuffle of the teams and seeing the placements drastically change because of how much time you are allotted in a mega leg. I mean, typically a leg is ran anywhere. I mean, depending on, if you're really, really good that leg, it could take you 4 hours, maybe, 4 to 6 hours. This is you heard Derek X make a comment, they went on a 12-hour day. And this is after doing previous legs, being locked up on camera, on all the time. And there are very few people who have had that experience before. Derek and Claire are one of them, but it's just, I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited to dissect kind of what happened with some of the teams emotionally, just from our point of view, which is we experienced it. And so everyone can, always throw out, oh, it's the edit, stuff like that. But we'll really just kind of put a human touch on what were our emotions going through running a leg. And granted, we didn't do a mega leg. So I can only imagine just the emotional and mental stress that these teams were going through. But I also can't help but wonder, if we didn't have COVID and our teams didn't come back from our season, if everyone came back, there was no issues, would we have done a mega leg? Would this have been a new trend moving forward after season 32 was every season's going to have a mega leg? And I guess I'll never know, but I would have loved to put it to the test, because I remember my first, second, and third leg kind of finally getting a grasp of okay, these legs aren't all day long. I mean, unless you really mess up with directions, which definitely happened to Raquel and I in Lugano. But yeah, I would have loved to gotten a taste of a 12-hour amazing race day, because I probably would have snapped at moments too, but I don't know. How do you feel about a mega leg? Would you have wanted to do it, or you're like, thank God we didn't have to do it?
I mean, it's I felt like our cast, anytime we got the chance to even communicate with one another, we always had it in the back of our mind that it may present itself. I don't even know how you mentally prepare for something like that. If it was brought up, I mean, you got to know you're in for a long day. Like you said, doing just one normal leg is a kick in the ass and mentally taxing. And then to know you have to do double everything. There's so much strategy with roadblocks. What are we going to do for detours? I think you saw that in the episode too. One, the driving is going to start separating people. And I believe this is the first time they had to drive a manual. So
Yes.
the kids were separated from the adults real fast.
Yep.
But then just making the right decisions. And so digging into this is going to be insane, because I think the decisions you made through detours, roadblocks really set you up. And then if you can navigate somewhat well, you put yourself in a good position. I think the teams that did well, we saw that.
Yeah. And it was at a test to certain teams picked the right partner to do certain challenges. So
those decisions are the most nerve-wracking. You have 1 second to make the decision. I mean, it's the fire and brimstone. It'll be interesting to get into these ones. So everyone is starting. They have a drive, and we have to go directly into our first detour. So again, it was a 15-minute start with the group. So I believe the first group this time was 2 teams, and then it went 4 and 4, 15 minutes apart. And so our first detour comes up. It was either head of class, which was to listen to an 8-minute sermon basically on a skeleton. And then you had to match, I believe it was, I want to say 30 pieces to the skeleton, the little wooden blocks with the names.
Yeah, I think you got 30 pieces, but I think you were only quizzed on like maybe half of them, because a couple teams were like, oh, what tripped us up was there were more answer options than there were, slots that we needed to fill out, which same with my Saints one. I go on there and I'm like, there are 3 Saints that look all the same, so, but,
If
and then
Ryan
what was the other
just
one?
Stayed there. The second one we had was, it was big cheese. So an 88-pound wheel of cheese that you had to carry, load onto a trailer of some sort, and take it and get it split and then delivered to 2 places. So the Amazing Race, starting the mega leg with a detour, you either have a mental challenge or you're going to have a physical challenge. And so I think I know the answer to what you and Raquel would have picked, but why don't you elaborate on which way you would have gone here?
I mean, we're going physical all the way, because if you're a fan of the show, like, and if you're really good with memorization, like maybe you go the mental route, but it's just, I don't know. Like in my mind, I'm like, I can carry a thing of cheese. And I don't know if like maybe when it said that it was 80 pounds, like the 80 pounds like scared some people, but I was genuinely shocked how many teams picked the class.
Crazy.
Because I don't know. I just watching it, like, I know it's not, it just, I don't know. To me, I was like, I would not pick that one. I didn't really have a choice when we had like the Saints, but I was genuinely shocked how many teams picked the class. But no, me and Raquel would have picked the cheese hands down. That looked and sounded the easiest. And this is like right off the get-go, like this decision and how frustrated it makes you as a team sets the pace for the entire mega leg, where it's like, in my mind, I'm like, well, if I get frustrated by taking this stupid quiz and having to listen to this class over and over again, mentally, I'm not in a good headspace. That's just how it works for me. So I'm like, cheese, like, okay, it might be really hard physically, but then I'll have rest like in the car, because mega leg, I assume we're driving, going to another location. But yeah, that would have been my strategy. And I'm 99% sure I lied. I'm 150% sure Raquel would have been like, no, give me the cheese weight, like for sure. No class for me. I mean, yeah, that would have been my strategy as a fan of Amazing Race of I do not want to test myself mentally this early on. Let's just do, in my mind, like the dumb, easy thing of moving the cheese and call it a day and move on. But I'm assuming you guys would do the cheese as well. You would probably be like, give me 2 cheeses.
I mean, Amazing Race, what the hell is it with all this cheese? If you don't recall, cheese is what put us in the second group for good in Corsica, France.
So
With
maybe you
that
wouldn't
being,
have picked the cheese.
no, there's Ryan and I immediately. It's like if it's something physical. My thought is one, you read the clue and it says an 8-minute sermon between things. So if you don't get it right the first time, you've already spent 15 minutes, let alone you miss it again. You're 30 minutes in. And, Ryan and I are always like, at least physical challenges, you can move forward. It may be hard, it may be excruciating, but like you said, you do get to rest in the car. And in the back of your mind in a mega leg, you're going to have some downtime. And honestly, with all the mental stress of sitting around waiting and then racing and all of that, some physical activity really lets it out for me. I mean, it was
Yeah.
like a godsend when we got those chances to do that and not something physical or mental. On a side note, though, Ryan is very fit, very into health. I mean, he wrote a book in prison. Shout out to it. I made a note on it. It is Stronger, Faster, Smarter, A Guide to Your Most Powerful Body. So guys, check that out on Amazon. He may have went the anatomy route. He's a pretty smart dude, but no, we definitely would have chose cheese. Are you
Yeah,
kidding
well,
me?
which like I consider myself smart too. Like I got the priest before Ryan did, but it just goes back to thinking of what your day is going to consist of. And you also kind of want to figure out how you can have a leg up on the other teams early on to afford yourself some mess ups later. So for me and Raquel, if I'm looking at the other teams, I feel pretty confident physically in the cheese thing. Whereas it's still early on in this race where I, at that point, would have only had a pretty strong opinion on a couple of teams like from our season, like Penn and Kim being one of them, of like, if I go into class with Penn and Kim, they're going to get it before me. I can't cheat off of them. So that, yeah, I would just, and again, I'd have to go back and rewatch it to see how many people like made that decision. Like, but again, it was like 4 teams left together in 2 separate groups. So you can hear what some people are doing. And I know that they did as well. I would have to take strategy huge in this moment of what are the other teams doing and do I feel confident in beating them in that one? Because if not, then yeah, maybe I need to switch because I don't know. Yeah, if Penn and Cameron going the study route, I'm going the cheese route, and that's just where like the strategy like kind of comes in, specifically on a mega leg, just because you want to create time that will give you more time later if you have like an error. But yeah, again, I've said it before, but I'm so shocked so many people picked the class one.
On the same token, when you're sitting over there doing the other challenge, I would kind of be like, well, did we make the wrong choice? No one's here. That was always something in my mind too. And I was a big proponent of the first challenge that you experience, whether it's a roadblock or detour in any leg, it's like, keep an eye on somebody. I
Yeah.
mean, the fear of being alone, if, sometimes you're in first place and that feels great. I've had that feeling, but I've also been in that last place and that's not a good feeling. So
Yeah.
I was always a big proponent. I think right here is where you kind of start seeing some cracks in some teams. I'm pretty sure it was, well, before this, even navigating, how I believe it was Lumumbo and they didn't even get in a car, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so you had to drive to a clue that gave you your detour choice. And then it said you had to take your car to get to where you did class. And it specifically said in the instructions, go via car, and they went by foot. So that cost them a ton of time, like you saw. But then you also had Dom and Rich, who he couldn't even like get the car started. So, I mean, again, that just would go back into my decision making. If we're having a hard time driving the car, like mentally, I'm just like, that just like adds to your like emotional stress to where I'm like, just give me the cheese. It's just so much like, I won't have to think about it, just so much goes into like these decisions. And I mean, some of them are costly, but yeah. So Glenda and Lumumba went by foot after they got their clue, and then they had to go back to get the car. So yeah, they're now severely behind because of that. But
I love those too. Can I just say that? I mean,
yeah,
just nothing gets them down, laughing
I
off.
was I was sweating when they were so far behind because I was like, they came in second twice, and like, no way that this is going to be their downfall. So I was like glad. I was sweating, but I also was like, okay, like they seem like a pretty competent couple, so like I think that they'll kind of catch back up. But yeah. Anyhow,
I think I want to give another shout out at this point too, because when we see people starting to drive to this first detour, there's an instance where you see Mr. Lewis pushing the car to
yeah.
get it, having driving issues. I believe both our teams during season 33 had these instances as well. What is it like when Raquel is shoving the car back, or vice versa? I forget who's doing it for you. Like, what's that feeling like?
I'm just like dying laughing. Like the camera and our audio guy, like they're laughing. And so they had the same issue as us. Like I couldn't figure out how to reverse the car. And me and Raquel were getting into these screaming fights because every time I'm going to park, like she's trying to tell me like, hey, just like pull on the side so we can just keep driving. Like if you're pulling into a parking space, like I'm not going to know, like because I don't know how to reverse, she's going to have to push us in neutral to reverse out of the parking space. So she's like screaming at me every time I go to park, but I'm like, I don't want to get in trouble for the way that I park in like an international like country. So I don't know. But yeah, we did the same thing that Lewis and Michelle did. Like we couldn't figure out how to reverse the car. So I would love to know, I'm sure they maybe talk about on their podcast, like how they eventually figured it out or if they did, because I asked this Irish construction worker on the side of the street, like 7 hours into the day, like how to reverse the car. I don't know why I didn't ask someone sooner at the gas station even, like, because we made so many stops and I don't know why I didn't just ask someone like, how do I reverse this car? Until maybe it was because I was waiting for the cute construction worker. But yeah, then they finally, there's a button. So for every future amazing racer out there, the button is underneath the little shaft thing for the car that will let you reverse your car in Europe. So I wish I would have known that.
So you guys know a button on a shaft. That's how you get your car in reverse. Never forget. Ever.
The clutch, the stick, whatever.
Yeah.
That's crucial.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, self-driving in a stick shift in a foreign country was something to behold. I felt like we all got it pretty quickly, though. I'm trying to think of our first self-drive leg was in Scotland with a manual, and really, I feel like the only people that really struggled were Ray and Caro. I mean, I don't even think they could get it going for the first few minutes.
Their car was like smoking, and then I'm pretty sure Penn hit 2 cars that leg, like. Yeah, I don't know. We did not struggle at all because I was driving at that point because I knew how to drive stick. I just didn't know how to put it in reverse. But now I will say our first day that we had to do it coming back when Raquel was driving, I would love to talk to the rental car people to ask how the clutch is because that thing was like grinded all the way down. But that was like Raquel saying, she's like, it's a rental, it doesn't have to be pretty. It just had to get the job done. So
that's right. Hey, they're paying the bills on it. I'm assuming CBS got the insurance.
Yeah, I'm sure it's fine. But like one time, like Raquel, like, because especially if you're on a hill, there was like a fence behind us and we were trying to like get going off the hill and we rolled all the way back up into the fence to where we had to switch so I could get us off the fence and then switch again once we were off the hill. And the guy, like, it was like someone's house. The guy like comes out and is like watching like what's happening because Raquel's like pulled out, like, or she's like out of the car, like dying laughing as I'm getting it off this fence. It was, I don't know. It's just so much harder to do literally tying your shoe when there's a camera person just like waiting for you to mess up and the neighbor waiting for you to crash their fence down. So yeah, anyhow.
I think one of the most refreshing things of watching other people do this now is the memories that I have from Ryan and I's experience and hearing your experience. It's like it jars these things in my memory. I was like, there was multiple times I was losing my mind and Ryan would have to switch and drive. I'm like, because you're being followed. They don't want you driving crazy. And of course, there's $1 million on line. I'm like hopping curbs, going into oncoming traffic, going left when you're supposed to turn right. I mean, it's and mentally taxing. Yeah. So through the detour, I mean, at this point in this leg, I mean, you have Marcus and Michael that are just balling. These guys are running away with it. But there are some other people that are starting to make moves at this point. Our girls, Emily and Molly, are quietly starting to make their case. They get through the detour. And so we finally get to our first roadblock. which we know after you watch the whole thing is one of two roadblocks back to back. And so something we discussed, and I did not see it, was if you chose the first roadblock in a mega leg, does your partner have to do the second one? Our leg in, where was it? It was Portugal. We had two roadblocks and we had to alternate in ours.
Yeah, it specifically said, the partner that did the first road, but it didn't tell us until after the fact. So we got a clue and we chose who did the roadblock. And then when we came to our second roadblock, it specifically said, if you did the first roadblock, you cannot do this one. So, but if it didn't say it at the beginning, and again, you don't know. So they didn't, at least it didn't say when we're watching the episode what the deal was. But I did notice, which I only noticed because of Amazing Race, it said, who wants to take a break? And the only reason why I want to talk about that, because the biggest thing for a bunch of my friends were like, why would Claire do that one? Like, why would she do that one? And in my mind, I'm like, well, maybe because she did the last one, which was yodeling, and it was really, really hard. So maybe they read it straight up like, who wants to take a break? Like, maybe this one's going to be an easy one, nudge, nudge. So she's like, okay, I'll do it. But it was probably spelled Brake, which I would like to think that I would assume it was something mechanical or like something with a vehicle, which is all Raquel. But yeah.
Tearing a roadblock, if for anyone that has not done this, which is the majority of people, let's be honest, the first clue you get is just so vague. You have no idea. They are hoping that you make the wrong decision, just praying for you to make the wrong decision. And the problem is, if you make that decision, there is no going back. And so really with Ryan and I, he is a car nut. I feel like this is like right up his alley. I mean, I think he would have taken this without even giving me the opportunity to do so. This was one watching, I ride mountain bikes religiously, so it would have made sense for me too. I feel like I think the clutch, pulling it in to spin the wheel, threw everyone off.
I would have never known.
But that's the thing with these. And so you start seeing some teams crack here, and especially Claire and Derek. I know you did a show with Derek, and he's been through 3 different programs now on CBS. He is a battle-tested reality Don Dada. And so in that instance, did you guys ever find yourself in a roadblock where you're watching and frustration's building because you're seeing other teams go?
Yeah. So for me, it was the Domades, the Domades one. But I couldn't even watch Raquel. I just know that she's gotten multiple checks and they keep telling her it's wrong. And she's yelling down to me like, Kayla, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I don't know. And every team's going, like Arun and Natalia, who showed up last, left before us. And I'm thinking that's the end all be all, But yeah, I mean, you can't help. Even if Derek could have, when she was trying to figure out how to work the wrench, how you have to twist it the other way or something, I wouldn't have known that either. It's just even if Derek knew, he can't shout out and help her. So at that point, you either got to hope that there was a demonstration, which this one, I don't think that there was.
They did have one, actually.
I thought they had, did they have a demonstration of them fixing it, or was it just the end product, the motorcycle all put together?
I felt like when Claire figured out the wrench, it did the dum-dum-dum, where it showed a guy adjusting his wrench. And so they didn't really show it a lot, so maybe a demo wasn't going. But rule 1 in a roadblock, it has cost so many people the Amazing Race, you have to watch the demo. And the first thing that I think about with our season was a very hard roadblock with you and Ryan tying the knots with, I believe, Pin. You guys were there forever, and it's you just have to go back. I mean, you kissed the guy, so...
I did.
You had something.
Well, because I watched him tie the knots easily 30 times before I even could start to attempt my first knot. I knew that there was a reason why his feet was the way that they were, where he started the way that he did, the way that he held the thing. There's just so many things. And then you get to yours and you're like, wait, what did I just watch? And it's funny. I heard someone say, he's like, I know I just watched them do it, but then I had to go back again. It was just so crucial for certain teams to pick that. I can't remember out of Emily and Molly which one did it, but clearly that was the absolute perfect person to do that. But then also David and Aubrey, like David worked like as a mechanic, like worked on cars or whatever. And then same with Michael and Marcus. There's one person that's like, oh, he said it. He goes, oh, well, I just usually pay someone to get it done. Like I like to ride them, but I don't want to fix them. And then his brother was the one who's like, oh no, I like to work on them. Like, it's like, there were just some teams that picked perfectly who to do that. And then there were some that weren't, you know? I will say, like, I mean, I have to think of Rich and Dom, because I do think Dom was like the right person to do that. Or sorry, Rich. Rich was the one that did that. But like, did you when I saw Dom like meditating like over on the side, she's like, okay, like I'm just sending you all my good energy, like you're gonna get this, and da-da-da. And then he did get it. And I kept thinking about when Raquel was like just sitting like in the rocks in Greece when all of you guys are freaking the heck out. Raquel's literally sitting there like meditating, like talking to the oracle lady. And in my mind, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, start flipping rocks. And I was thinking the same thing when I'm watching, you know, Dom just sit there like, I'm sending you all the positive energy. And in my mind, I'm like, that would annoy the shit out of me. Like, you know, like I'm glad that you're sitting there. I'm glad that you're sitting there so relaxed, but like, this is all on me. But then it worked. And then he got it, you know? And I'm just like, it's just funny how people are different, because I'm just not like that. Like I am a positive, like outward person, but I'm also outward. And like when I'm stressed and whatever, like the whole over the top, like positivity, I'm sending you vibes. I'm like, no, like put in the work, like, you know, but it worked for them. And like, I mean, they made it out of there.
Ryan and I, that was our first conversation going into the Amazing Race season 33. I go, the first thing we need to figure out is how do we communicate with each other when all shit is hitting the fan?
Like
Ryan's
when you're stressed. Yeah.
He's like, don't say a goddamn word. Just be quiet. I don't need you to talk. Where me, I'm like, you got to do something. Say something. Like the Rocks was a great example. He had to drag me by my collar of my shirt up to calm me down.
Yeah, see, I'm more like Ryan. Like I don't need it. Like I can self-internal, like I will figure it out like in my own way kind of thing. But like I'm a lot more like Ryan, and you and Raquel are definitely very similar.
I mean, I really believe she may be my sister from some estranged something, and our parents aren't telling us.
I think so, but yeah, it sucks that Glenda and Lumumba were so far behind on that, because I would just love to know the timing of what time every team got there and what time they finished, because obviously Glenda and Lumumba, they left last from that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously arrived last as well.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know timing wise if they did it quicker than a lot of the other teams. But yeah, this one was like a pressure cooker. Like there were a lot of moments where I'm like, ooh, like how far behind are they actually? But when Glinda and Lumumba met back up with Rich and Dom, I was kind of like, okay, I feel fairly confident that they're making up time the rest of the leg.
Boy, oh boy, does the kettle overboil on this next roadblock we're going into. Oh my goodness. So I want to give a shout out to Emily and Molly. I feel like they went in, like you said, made the right choice, ripped through that motorcycle. I mean, this was moving day for them, and they made the move at this point of the race, in my opinion, looking back on it.
And I bet you all the teams, specifically like men, like I have to say it, like I would look at that, like, I mean, because I just wouldn't expect a double female team to come in and murder that.
Crazy.
Like she did so good. And that's why I love when her sister, like you could just see the shock on her face. Like she's like, I'm just so shocked right now. Like I'm so proud of her. Like I just could not believe she like came in there and got that done so quick.
So good.
And if like, for me, and if I were like Marcus and Michael, I'm wondering, like, as like, you know, a strong male team, if they're like looking at Emily and Molly differently now, because there are some challenges where I mean, I'll be the first to say it. Like, I would be so worried for Raquel and I going into that as like a female, like her and I don't work on like, we're both definitely like, I'm going to pay someone to do it, or I want Colton, you know, Raquel's going to want Tony to do it. Like, that is what it is. So like good on Emily and Molly. Ashley's a badass. but yeah, it's just like for me, that was, again, I will always root for the all female team just because I can't help it. I want an all female team to win. And so I hope that like there were moments for all those teams to like in that moment to be like, oh shit, like Emily and Molly, like
They've known each other for a
awesome.
year, literally a year of their life. And they're running the
Yeah.
Amazing Race and just getting better and better and better. And so everyone finally gets through Roadblock 1. They get the motorcycle put together. And so then after everything that these people have been through the first half of the mega leg, there is a 125-mile self-navigation stick shift drive to the next city in Italy to go to not only another challenge, but lo and behold, a roadblock again. 2 roadblocks back to back. Amazing Race, you're doing these people dirty. Ooh. And so this is the roadblock that may be the turn the stone over challenge of the season. I'm not sure yet, but I feel like this one crushed a lot of people, and I can't wait to dig in. We had Who Wants a Body to or Who Wants a Chiseled Body is the name of this challenge. And so the first thing we see is these beautiful Michelangelo sculptures, and then you see a whole bunch of solid blocks of stone. And I'm thinking there is no way in hell they're going to make these people have to carve. I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And so what are your thoughts? What are you thinking? You walk into this roadblock, you tear the clue, who's doing it?
Well, again, I don't know what the additional rules were. I'm assuming that you couldn't do 2 back to back because I don't think any team member did 2 back to back. So I would hope that Raquel did the break one.
Yeah. She's had enough of rocks.
I really hope that she would have done that one because just hearing the word chisel, and I believe like looking at your surroundings, I think you could see the blocks.
Sure.
I would have done that one because that was Raquel and I's strategy was if it's detail oriented, it would be me. If it's anything like over the top physical or like strength, that would be Raquel.
Or eating large things.
Or not even large things, just eating anything. I wanted that to be Raquel. I would have done that one if I didn't do the previous one. And that's the question. That's the kicker. Like I don't know in that moment what we would have picked for Who Wants to Take a Break. But yeah, if given the choice, I would have done the chiseling.
I think ideally I would have done the same thing. Let Ryan do the motorcycle and me do this.
Yeah.
And I think something like right off the bat, like it looks, I mean, you see it, you see Dom coming. She's like, there's no way in hell I'm gonna be able to do this. But in the back of your mind, what stands out to me is painting the goddamn doors in Portugal. Mm-hmm. We're not professional artists. It's never going to be something perfect. You just have to realize there's no way in hell they're going to make us carve that. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's got to be a trick to this, right?
Yeah,
right?
like our doors had like everything was already traced out. We just had to color it in the right colors and like not be sloppy. And yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm like making anyone feel like dumb or whatever for like being like, oh my gosh, like, do we have to chisel this? But like, yeah, in my mind, I'm kind of like, how did multiple people like come in thinking like, oh my God, we have to chisel that? Like, no. But I do want to speak on behalf of Dom in the sense that, because I know some people were kind of giving her heat of like, oh, motivational speaker, and you were just going to quit that one. I wouldn't necessarily say that because she did follow it up. Like she said, she goes, this is not my strong suit. Like it might be better for us to take the penalty right now. And they didn't show it on ours, but all of you guys started talking about a penalty on the rocks. Now that one's a little different because it's like the needle in the haystack. So that one was more so luck, and that one's totally out of anyone's control. Whereas if you figured out, oh, if you just chisel and it, pops all off, like, I mean, you're going to get it done, and it should not take you 4 hours. But in that moment, if she genuinely was like, oh my God, where you have to sculpt this, like, this is going to take me more than 4 hours. Like, there was still strategy there. To me, that wasn't her totally being like, oh, I'm going to give up. I can't do this. It was her making a very, in her mind, like in tune with herself decision of, I'm not going to be able to chisel this Michelangelo. Let's take the penalty and not waste time. Obviously, I'm sure she's glad that she didn't do that now that she saw that you could, chip away at it. But I just at least wanted to like say that on Dom's behalf, because yeah, I mean, if you really thought that you had to chisel that, like that would have been a smart move. If we did have to genuinely chisel that, I would have been like, yeah, I'll take the penalty. Like,
Absolutely.
I would not know how to do that. But again, Amazing Race isn't going to make you chisel it by hand.
I thought it was a beautiful moment too. And I mean, I had one of these on the show where Rich pulls her to the side and says, listen, relax, just give it 15 minutes. Just like
Yes.
before you throw in the towel, give it 15 minutes. And I think in that 15 minutes, it clicked. And, it was the same experience I had with Ryan flipping over rocks. So, it's like,
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. It's not here. And it's sometimes just to take a step back and have your partner just breathe some life into you. So I think it speaks to their relationship and really what they're about, because it got her through it. And I think it clicked and she realized, oh yeah, I just got to get this off and there's something under it. And then we just have to patch it and clean it. And so I totally agree with what you said as well. In the heat of battle on The Amazing Race, guys, decisions come so fast. There's no time to live with regret. And I mean, she got through it. And so my hat's off to her. And so,
yeah, but I mean, just to dive more into it, like, this is the time, because at the beginning, everyone's nervous. It's The Amazing Race. Phil has said go, and everyone's getting comfortable with running the leg with, a camera following you, the reading of the clue, just the overall operation of what is The Amazing Race. So we're on leg 3 now, or, what is the mega leg. And people are starting to feel, one, comfortable in the format, right? Like, even if you've watched it, to run it is different, but now like you're in the swing of things, how the day goes, how the leg goes. So now it's really just who's a good team and who can run the race together consistently as a good team. And this is where we saw the good teams. And when I say good, I mean like the bond that they have with each other.
absolutely.
And Rich and Dom, again, like, I don't really have anything negative to say about them, because like you said, yeah, Rich knew how to tell her, like, hey, just give it 15 minutes. And she was like, okay, like, I'll give it a try. And like that communication between them, I thought was awesome. Like, that is in my opinion, that is a good team, because he could have just been frustrated at her, like, what do you mean you're going to give up? Or, or she could have been like, no, I'm not giving it 15 minutes, and I mean, we do kind of start to see a team that did have that dynamic. But yeah, so I don't know. This is just like a very pivotal moment, I think, in the season, in all of the seasons of Amazing Race. Like, you've gotten your first couple legs under your belt, and now it's because it's not even just who's tired. It's if you've gotten 1 or 2 legs under your belt, like at this point, hopefully you're feeling confident, or maybe you're not feeling confident. And now that's where your emotions start to creep in, and they could completely take over for the worst, like you could want to go home. Yeah. So, I mean, which kind of leads us into the obvious of, this is our first glimpse of Sharik and Linton. And just one, I will just say, I could never do this with like a parent. Not saying that like my parents wouldn't be a good partner, because I mean, my mom knows the show better than I do. My dad is more competitive than I am. It's like I have the perfect combination of both, but I could never do it with either of them because of how we talk to each other or how we communicate. And it's very much a sibling parent thing where like no child wants to be, I don't know, just at least me, like as a grown adult, like I would not, I don't know, I just wouldn't have as good, like I wouldn't receive their communication as well as I would receive Raquel's, because like she's my friend. I consider myself like equal to her. And so just the way that we communicate is just different than like if like, I don't know, I would just always, even though my parents aren't getting on to me, that's just how I would feel. And so I admire these parent, daughter, son teams that come on here, because it really is a vulnerable situation to put yourself in. And, we saw it here. But yeah, I don't like, I mean, Sharik really did not handle her dad initially kind of pushing her to stick with it and just keep trying. And, you know, like she's just over it. She's over it. And
She wanted to go back to the Big Apple real bad, like ready to go.
yeah,
Like, I'm done. Did you ever have a moment on the show where you were done? Like,
yeah, but it was at the very end. When, yeah, I mean, when Raquel and I are put at the Galaxy Stadium, and we just, for the life of us, can't get the stupid candy and the coin. We're flip-flopping them, and now we're questioning the ones that I know that we have right. Like Raquel's questioning the ones that I have done that I know are right, and I'm questioning hers. And it's, I didn't see her coin, she didn't see the candy, but then there's all these other things that it was just, it was so frustrating to the point to where even though I knew that we were getting at least, because at this point, like, I mean, Kim and Pin were still there. So even if we didn't get first, we were getting second or third, which is still an accomplishment, because that's the feedback, right? Is everyone's like, you're on the amazing race. Like, do you know how many people would want to be in her position? And, you know, it's so easy to say that, but it's like, these are human beings. Like, I mean, I genuinely, at the end of Amazing Race, when Raquel and I weren't getting it right, her and I both sat on the ground at times, which they didn't show. And we both were like, I'm done. I'm done. I want to go home. Like, we had $1 million in our hands and we lost it. I mean, that's every single team, even right now. They all right now have a chance to win $1 million. And she's messing it up because of a sculpture, and she's done. Now, I had that moment way later, and it wasn't really shown, but I did. I was like, I'm done. I want to go home. I don't care about second. I don't care about third. Even, let's say by the grace of God, we figured this out before Kim and Penn. Like, I'm done. Like, I was so frustrated, and it had shown a rift between Raquel and I in that moment where, like, we just felt weak. We were just, it was an ultimate low. So yeah, we had that moment.
I had
I,
it. I
I,
definitely had it.
yeah,
Not
I
even the
think.
rocks, but the painting the fucking door.
Really? Okay, so I think most people who listen to our podcast would have, like, we all know your rock, the rock where you're rock bottom. But okay, because I wasn't there, I didn't know about the door.
So yeah, painting the door, the doorknob gate, everyone knows about it. And it's
Doorknob
like,
gate.
I just went through hell and back in Greece, along with everyone that did that rock challenge. I mean, it's destroyed all of us. I mean, for weeks afterwards. And so, yeah, of course that's bad. But my main thing with that was letting Ryan down and getting us kicked off the show, and it was my fault. But when painting that door, we just couldn't figure it out. And I see Natalie and Arun starting to catch up, and it just got to the point, and this wasn't aired either. I said, I can't take any more of this. I need to get home to my son. This is just not mentally good for me. And then I got through it, and we punched our ticket to the finale. But I think every team would be lying to you if they said they didn't have this moment. And so
Yeah.
Sharik, I know she's losing it. She wants to quit. But at the same time, it would be easy to just bury her into the ground and say, you have this lifetime opportunity. You're being selfish by wanting to throw it away. This is so stressful, guys. And like we said at the beginning of this episode, you get 3-4 legs in, running a mega leg. You're 8-9 hours into the day. It's getting dark. You're watching everyone leave. It can get the best of you. And so
Yeah.
it would be so easy for us to bash you, but
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
And it's,
And that's not what we're trying to do. I want to, I want to humanize the situation and whatever. But I also will be brutally honest though. And I don't have an issue with her having the moment of like, I'm done. I want to go home, because I was there. But I did have a moment where I came full circle, and I felt like I was literally watching my attitude. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
I was upset at my attitude in that moment. I mean, and this is it's very hard to do. It's very easy to say and then, like, you know, criticize someone else for it. But I mean, I wanted to go home. I said it out loud. I definitely had like my moment, but then I did for me, it was like, you know what? Like, I want to still run to Phil, and I got to the mat, and it's completely different. I do understand, because like I was in that moment getting second. This is a lot earlier on, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed that she couldn't turn it around on the mat. Like, that's my thing. Like, yeah, you got to a low point. You felt those emotions. Like, you're human, like, you know, dealing with anxiety, like all kinds of stuff. It was just a little disappointing as a viewer, as a fan of the show, to not see her turn it around on the mat where, you know,
You
just
survived.
to be like, yeah, you know, and just be like, you know, and then she did say, she's like, I just need to go to bed. So like, I'll put a rest at it. It's just, I hope next episode it's turned around. It's, you know what? I went to an absolute like low place and I wanted to go home. And like, I hope she looks at it as like, that's the worst. Like, you know, I'm not going to let my mind, I'm not going to let, you know, my attitude or whatever get to that place again, you know, and if I do, then just go home, you know, like actually like go home. And I get it. You want to stay with your dad.
Compete.
I feel, I don't know. I feel for both of them because this is a very vulnerable position. Like, you're literally on national television, and to be critiqued for that, I'm glad that I can at least attest to I was there too. I felt that way, and I hope people hear that and go a little easy. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm just hopeful that she turns it around for next, you know, leg 4 after the mega leg. You got through the mega leg.
It's not going to get any easy. Yeah, it's not going to get any easier from here on out.
And it's like, if you had that problem communicating, you know, where he's just, I don't know, like, yeah, we'll move on from it. But
so everyone gets through the roadblock eventually. I mean, this was a tough one. I mean, you had to patch some things, do some things. It broke some people's will. It broke some people's soul. One thing that I'll always say that stuck in my mind, I think Ryan said it to me at one point. He goes, the camera will put 10 pounds on you, but it also cuts off half your fuse. So never forget that. I'm telling you, tying your shoes is hard on camera. We get through the sandwich of roadblocks, and we wrap up with another detour 2 on the day. We're finally starting to get close to the finish line. We have Eye for Fashion. It was 3 models in the shoot, and you had to remember the background. And there was also the window of opportunity, which you had to find 3 windows to serve you something out of 150 windows. Cool backstory, bubonic plague. This was how people, you know, did daily activities through these little holes in the walls to protect themselves. And I think they even made a note that it was brought back during COVID.
I was going to say, yeah, like it was like brought back into like service or use, like because of COVID, just to like minimize exposure.
So I honestly, both of these seem to be, you know, you've been through hell and back through these 3 events. You've already been through tons of driving. I mean, you didn't really get an opportunity for something physical here. So 2 mental challenges. What route are you 2 going?
I would have probably picked the windows. I know that it said, and this is where I would just want more information from that other piece of the clue that you get after you rip it off. I know it says 3 windows out of like 150 in the city. I would imagine that they gave you the location of those 3 and you just had to navigate to those 3. I highly doubt you just had to run aimlessly and ask all these different windows, like, do you have something for me? Like,
I need some soup.
Yeah. So I think just after the day that I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes. Like, it's like after the day that was just had, what would be the easiest? And I mean, Raquel and I were a pretty fast team. We considered ourselves pretty quick on foot. And so I would have just wanted to navigate to the 3 different places on foot, collect them, be done. Because I mean, at this point, if I didn't know it from my experience on the previous legs, I know it from Amazing Race, is you had to go look at the fashion stuff. And then at the quiz, I just don't know if I would have known at the moment when I had to decide which one I was doing, if the quiz was at a different location, if you had to go back. Like, yeah, I would have just been like, again, attention to detail. It's been a very long day. It's been a very emotional day. Like, let's just do the brainless thing and let's just find the 3 things, deliver them, be done, opposed to navigate to 3 different fashion shoots, memorize all that, and get tested. Like, yeah, I would have done the windows. So what about you and Ryan?
I mean, Ryan would have killed me for this one. I literally, when I first saw it, I was like, take the 3 models. Like, when I saw the 150 windows, I'm thinking like a needle in haystack. That's the first thing my brain goes to on everything. I wake up and I'm worried I'm in a needle in a haystack. And so immediately I realized once I see what's going on that I would have made the wrong decision. And I think they highlighted on our season. I mean, I think Ryan and I talked about switching damn near every detour we did
You
at some
guys
point.
did.
Every single, like, what do we do?
But that's what I love about Amazing Race, and I still to this day love talking about it afterwards, is it's so easy to sit there and be like, oh, that would have been the wrong one, or oh, I would have picked this one. Like, you have to think about, like, okay, this is all the clue says. You don't know any of the other information that Phil is telling you as you're watching it on the TV. So I'm trying to think of, like, just using like my like deductive, like, you know, reasoning skills of like, okay, no way they're going to make you check 150. So like that would have been my thought process. So it's funny to hear that your thought process is 150, that's a needle in the haystack. Like, no. And so it's like these teams are genuinely making their own decisions, like just like how you and I are like discussing it. I'm surprised you would have taken the fashion. Like that's funny.
Immediately, I get it now. Once I saw it, I mean, that's a detour we would have switched immediately. No question asked. The only one we ever really switched was the very first detour we did in London. That was it. We started running and stopped.
No, you switched the donkey and the cheese. The cheese to the donkeys.
That's true. We are forced into that due to my poor decision making and thoughts that I was a cheese maker. So that's here nor there. I hate cheese and I hate rocks and elevators. Fucking 1025, go kick rocks. So, I mean, the detour, I think this is where everyone's decisions are made. And so Marcus and Mike, and I believe Emily and Molly both chose the model, finding the models. And lo and behold, you know, the boys are running in first place the whole time. And then the girls track them down here and make the move. And so, you know, this was the first pass, really. I mean, the moving and shaking in this episode was insane, but it was good to see the girls get it done and humble the boys a little bit. And
get it done from coming from behind. I mean, because Marcus and Michael got to leave in that first pack, you know, so they started at the very beginning of the day, always ahead. And yeah, what got him is, it's funny that, you know, I can't remember which one. I feel bad, girls. It's Emily or Molly. But she said, you know, one of them has like a photographic memory. And I'm like, oh, great, we got another pin in the season. Is that like a thing? Like, find someone that has a photographic memory? But yeah, what tripped up the boys was they didn't look at the background. So
it's one small thing that can get you always. In this episode too, just before this detour, you kind of see, we're going to see if it's an alliance, and it could have just been a strategic play. Quentin, Maddie, Lewis, and Michelle partner up to get through the leg. You know,
and
if you're
Abby and Will probably had a chance to go with them, and it was cool to see as a fan. You hear them tell the camera, they're like, no, we came on this and we said we were going to run our own race, and they go right by the four of them and they beat them to the mat. Abby and Will did. So they're also another like quiet sleeper team that
sneaky, man.
You haven't really seen them make too much mistakes. I mean, on a mega leg, and it kind of is like not too much like TV time. Probably because they're running a pretty flawless leg. And if you can run a pretty flawless leg on a mega leg, I mean, you're a strong team. So yeah, it was cool to see the conversation of, oh, well, let's run together. Because I mean, I think you and I both had moments with our partner where we ran with other teams because it made sense in that moment.
Absolutely. I don't think we ever made like true alliances on our season, but it was like, what's going to benefit us? And by the time you get to narrowing it down, if you can put your foot on a team's throat, especially with how good our end of our season was. I mean, everyone was so excellent at this show, and it's like you need every advantage you can get to the end and get to the money. And so
I did laugh that like they like jumped on the mat together, because I will say, like, if it was like me and another team and we like followed each other all day, like me and Raquel always said we would haul ass to the mat first.
My wife always said, Dusty, if you ever jump onto the mat, I'm going to slap you. She's like, don't be that guy that just hops onto the mat. And of course, the first leg, I fucking hopped on the mat like an asshole.
I mean, that's just like, I mean, that was just what was said. It was, you know, we can help each other get from A to B, but I mean, this is a race. And so I don't know. I thought it was cool that they like jumped on there together. I mean, me and Raquel, I guess, are dirty, and we would have like sprinted and be like, all right, it's a foot race. But
so Emily, Molly, you get your first leg win. The boys strong second place, both players. Let's get into our top three. I guess we got to address this before we wrap this thing up. And so
Yeah.
my top three, I've just changed the order a little bit. I'm just going to keep mine the same, but I have moved Emily and Molly ahead of Claire and Derek just because they are slowly getting better and better and better. Not a shot at Claire and Derek. You've performed well. You've overcome some obstacles. As a new couple doing this, that was something we talked about too. There are literally 6 couples doing this season. Could you, I
6,
mean,
more than half. That's
oof,
more than half of the teams that are left right now. Yeah. Oh, I
it would
guess
be
Rich and
rough.
Dom are gone, so now there's only 5. But oh yeah, it's still more than half. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. And so that's a strong thing to do with your significant other. You know how to poke each other's buttons better than anybody. There's love, but there's also war. And so I can't wait to watch this unfold. And so I have Emily, Molly, Claire and Derek, and then Glinda and Mamumbo is my top 3. And so just changed. I moved Emily and Molly from second to first. What do you got?
I'm so torn. I think I'm still going to go Glinda and Lumumba first. They were at the very, very bottom of the pack. And again, this is only what we see. There could have been moments, just like Shriek and Linton had, that Glinda and Lumumba had, and we just didn't see them. I'll be the first to admit that's a possibility. But for the most part, it looked like the way that they carry each other, like they even said, like they were having fun the whole time. And I appreciate that in a team. I think you need that in a team. So I'm going Glinda, Lumumba, Molly and Emily, Claire and Derek.
All right, I like it. Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm excited after all the drama that ensued after this mega leg. We're heading to Jordan this week. Guys, we'll get back on track here as well. So tomorrow, new episode, CBS, check it out. We'll get content out as soon as it's over. I'm hoping for some fireworks, some bloodshed, some yelling, some fighting. We need the goods. And I think this cast is gonna deliver.
I know. I'm like, I want everyone to like have a really fun time, but secretly I want more drama. Because it's
Drama.
like me and Dusty are like texting like, whoa, like that mega leg. Like I love it. I love the drama.
Well, Kayla, as always, it has been one hell of a ride doing this with you. I'll get back on here with you sometime here real soon. We'll get the next episode wrapped up. Guys, let us know if you like this this way better, where we talk a little more strategy than just straight up, recapping the episode. I know there's multiple of these, and so we're just trying to keep it fresh, creative, and give you guys kind of an inside look of what our thoughts would be on it. And we appreciate all the listens. So until the next time, guys, we love you. Peace.
Bye.